My father lived near Glasgow, just on the edge of the countryside. And one afternoon he tells the story of how his mother was sitting on her own in the sitting room, reading, I suppose, and my grandfather was elsewhere. When he eventually came back into the sitting room, she said to him, "James, what was the matter with that old cow outside?" And my grandfather, who had a wonderful gruff laugh, said, "Oh, sis, that was me practicing the double bass." So when I read the prospectus of the National Youth Orchestra of Great Britain, a very good paragraph appeared in the middle saying about the standard being high and so on, except for the instruments of the trombone, the tuba and the double bass, and that a lower standard was acceptable for entry into the orchestra. Well, I put two and two together and thought, my grandfather has a double bass. I was about 13 at the time, and another thing happened was my school teacher, my music teacher in school in Edinburgh, said that there was a double bass going for someone to learn, and he wanted a new boy who hadn't learnt an instrument to join the team for the little orchestra we had. But of course he got a disappointment. I was the one who said, "Oh, I want to learn the double bass." I already played the piano and the organ. So I began lessons with the redoubtable Mary Dare. She was a wonderful lady. She had a great deep chuckle. She was a cellist really, but she'd learnt to play the double bass. And we had lessons together. She really was, we both laughed because I was making such funny noises. And of course, she showed me how to tune the instrument. This wonderful deep E, the A, the D, and the G, four above. Let's see if it's in tune. And a good way is to find the harmonic so you can hear the sound octaves above. There it is, much higher. I'm just pressing very lightly on the string. And I can hear much more accurately whether they're in tune. That one's a little bit flat, I think. So we had some wonderful, simple lessons together, and I learned how to play in first position, where I would be, say, that's an E, and then a semitone higher, with your fingers far back as possible to get. So perhaps you can see already what my grandmother was commenting on. I got to G now. I'm going to cross to the A string. Now I'm going to go a semitone higher, so well back. B flat. Open the fingers. B natural, and then C is there. So that's good. And if I want to say a fourth above, I just go on to the next string and on to the next string. And that was very satisfying, just to cross the strings. You had, of course, to put on rosin onto your bow, which was, otherwise the hairs were not catching enough, they weren't quite sticky enough to catch onto the strings here, the metal strings here. Which reminds me, when I was practicing in Edinburgh, it was actually my parents' bedroom. They had a large bedroom in our flat in the edge of the new town. And it's big window. It had been an artist studio. It's wonderful. So plenty of light. But the moment I started tuning up, the black cat rushed out of the room. I think it sensed that before this was restrung, this instrument had some gut strings, and I think the cat knew that, sensed it right in its body. And of course, you learned how to have a lovely smooth bow across, heading out the right angle. So I was already beginning to get a little basic at the instrument, and I played in the school orchestra. And I still remember the teacher of one of the primary classes in front of me played the cello, and suddenly she attacked the string too vigorously of her cello, and the string broke. It was like a gunshot, and of course she screamed, and this was all rather exciting, happening just in front of me in the school music room. So I have to tell you about l'Éléphant. Saint-Saëns wrote, as you know, the Carnival of the Animals, and he chose to represent l'Éléphant, the elephant, on the double bass very appropriately. And this is the piece I actually did my Cambridge University, or my college, at least Emmanuel College debut, on playing this piece, not playing the piano or the organ, but l'Éléphant. Here she comes. Too bad, considering I haven't played it for years. So that was after, of course, I had joined the National Youth Orchestra, and I got into that not the first year, but the second year that I auditioned. The second year that I auditioned, I found myself in the Edinburgh Society of Musicians, way high up, just beside Princes Street, in the attic level of Thistle Street. One of the streets called Thistle after the Scots. The equivalent one on the other side of George Street was called Rose after the English. And in that studio I played some Bach. I had a lovely time doing that, but they wanted to hear me. They being Dr. Ruth Railton and Ivy Dixon, her assistant director of this great orchestra founded by Ruth Railton. They wanted to hear me play the double bass. So I chose the well-known Schubert tune. Let's see if I can play it. Well, terrible, I need to practice that one. But that was a rather unwell trout, I think. Let's try again. Wee bitty better. And it was wonderful. I was playing it very seriously as a schoolboy, about 14, 15. And these two wonderful ladies were just giggling, absolutely giggling, because I played it even worse than that, I think, and I was getting so squeaks as well as I played. And it was the best thing for them on a rather serious day to get these young musicians playing and to have one of them making these ladies laugh. The remarkable thing was I actually got into the National Youth Orchestra, not at first as a double bass player, but as a general musician, which meant you attended all the orchestral rehearsals, you watched the conducting, you had conducting classes, you had composition classes, and you just were drinking in this atmosphere created by 120 young teenage musicians from all over Britain, and their terrific coaches who were distinguished professors in London. A remarkable experience. Now, this is the important thing. When I went to the orchestra on the first evening, Ruth Railton called me across, Dr. Railton called me, and she said, "You're playing double bass tomorrow." And I must have been astounded, but it was the best way for me to join the orchestra. Someone was ill, and so I got the orchestra. I was in C major. It was wonderful. Fun, I see. Hold on. It's really learning how not to touch the other strings at the same time. That, some of you will know, I'm sure. I trust you will recognize it because it's Wagner's Overture to the Mastersingers, Die Meistersinger, one of the great comic operas. Ha ha ha. There's some comical bits, all right, and very long and very wonderful by the Die Meistersinger. And that was what we were playing, the Overture to the Meistersinger. Not only was I at the end of the line of double basses, 12 of us were there. Normally in an orchestra, 6 to 8. 12 of us all along the way, and me at the end. It was wonderful. And just beyond me, there were trumpets. Trumpets, one of whom was David Pountney, who's just about to retire as being one of the world's top producers for opera. Very imaginative, clever man. And just beyond him was Mark Elder. We were all teenagers together, exactly the same age. We were all 16. Mark Elder was playing second bassoon. Well, to play in C major was a relief. To 4/4, that was fine. And this glorious music came like a huge wave across this gymnasium in Sunderland. 1 December, it was 1963. Unbelievable experience. Life changing, as people say. Truly deepest of colours and richness of sound. Trouble is, over the page, I had to turn the page. When you're on sharing a desk with another double bass player, the one on the lesser one turns the page. And I turned the page, and to my horror, there was 6 bars of rest. Counting! But I was a pianist. Pianists don't count empty bars. They have to find enough fingers to play hundreds of notes. So, of course, I had to learn how to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and great exciting things like that. But more shocking was the fact that there were 4 sharps appeared and I had to play in E major. Gosh. And that was in first, out of the back position into the next position. So I was learning very fast. In fact, I have to let you into a little secret. I got very good. I realised, I wasn't stupid, I realised I had to be exactly the same. We had to look the same. One bow had to go that way, not just one bow, 12 bows had to go that way. So I got good at looking sideways. I got very good at just keeping the bow, when necessary, just off the string, but I could look absolutely just the part, and it was actually commented on by Dr. Railton. She said to the whole orchestra, look, even the number 12 double bass is playing exactly the same. They're all together. I knew it would work that way. And of course I got braver. The biggest career change from career, career enhancement for me was to move up to number 7 double bass. And I'll tell you about that next time.